Alright, there we are. Hello. We're going to be talking about Jujutsu Kaisen Chapter 260, spoilers, because this is probably the most divisive chapter we've had in a long time, and we don't even know what happened yet. So, first of all, I'll put the poll out immediately. Do you guys like the idea of Gojo coming back? Let's take a look here. A new background. Yes, we are here with a new background of Gojo. How could you not have Gojo today? So if Gojo Satoru was actually coming back, first of all, if you asked me like 2 weeks ago, like a month ago, if I wanted Gojo to come back, I would have said no. But if the Gojo pie is in front of me, like maybe I will have a slice, you know? Like if it's just on the counter, I think I'm kind of okay with it. Like, I think we are jumping to conclusions to say that it's just, like, bad writing when we don't even know what happened yet. There are some options for Gojo to come back. And I'm going to base most of this stream on the assumption that Gojo is back, because that's just the most interesting topic, to be honest. Yeah, people think it's 100% Gojo. Can we all agree Todo is lame now? No, we cannot agree. He has a goddamn cowbell for a hand. Why should he return? We haven't had any evidence. I mean, I don't know, these 6 eyes showing up at the end, that's some pretty good evidence for Gojo coming back. That's more evidence than we've had in a long time. So the obvious assumption here is that the merger will occur after Gojo pops off. I think that's what most of you guys think. I see some people talking about it right now. But the merger in general, like, that is kind of the trump card, what most people assume is the trump card. Sukuna could have more in his bag, but with the current state Sukuna is in, and with what we know Sukuna has, it's kind of ridiculous to think he's just gonna like pull something out that's gonna get him back, unless he does eat somebody and get powers back. But he's already struggling with Boogie Woogie. If Gojo is back, the merger is happening. That's what a lot of people think, and I'm kind of inclined to agree, mainly because Gege Akutami is not a total hack writer. If Gojo does come back, if Gojo is really going to be back in Jujutsu Kaisen, you're going to see, like, he's not being brought back to just beat someone's ass. Like, Sukuna's already on his death's door. He's going to be brought back for a purpose. It's not for not just for fan service. Gege Akutami doesn't really do that. Is it Gojo, or only Go and Joe is still lying in the battlefield? It's Gojo, but imagine if he has stitches on his forehead. I mean, Kenjaku got stabbed in the head. I think we're way over that at this point. He said my legacy will be carried on. So far, it looks like it's kind of split. People are still in the majority, yes, that they like the idea of Gojo coming back. Let me turn down this music real quick. Okay. He glazing Gojo. He's starting to see his Gojo. Oh, I will 180, guys. I have absolutely no qualms. I have no loyalties. Whoever's strongest, whoever like shows up and starts beating ass, I'm there. And honestly, some of the Sukuna fans have become a little too emboldened. You know, when Gojo died, Gojo fans, some of the more annoying Gojo fans had it coming, but like now the Sukuna fans are kind of taking over for them. Was that panel that was shown with Gojo's 6 eyes glowing near April Fool's, could this have been foreshadowing for this chapter? It looks like he only has 1 eye. Potentially, but he says domain expansion, so maybe we're about to see like 2 bum domains clash with each other. It would be so funny if Sukuna is just tripping. It is possible he's just tripping. Like, I'm not going to rule it out, because it is 1 panel. We are basing this off of what is effectively 1 panel of maybe Gojo. But let's be real, 1 panel of maybe Gojo is more than like 90% of what we've got so far. And on a side note, let's talk about Todo for a second. Somebody in my comment section actually called this the other day, that he was going to have like this prosthetic arm. But him having a goddamn cowbell, I don't know how I feel about that. As of right now, Jujutsu Kaisen is like, we're on a roller coaster, guys. We are on a roller coaster, and we just entered a pitch black tunnel, and it's either going to go up or down, because Gojo coming back could be really, really goddamn stupid, or it could be really good. And there's no in between. Like, you have to execute Gojo's return properly, or it's going to be dumb as fuck. And I'm here for it. I'm here for it if it's good. I think I've always had that opinion. That, like, if you're going to bring back Gojo, make it make sense. Who else could it possibly be besides Gojo? I've seen a couple theories, but, like, I don't really think they're worth going into right now off of one panel. The obvious implications Gojo. I think that's fair. Todo's new hand is such an upgrade to his technique. Todo is busted. And we also got more information on why he wasn't there to fight or help out with Higuruma, because I always thought, if Higuruma's there with the Executioner's Sword and Todo can just boogie woogie, just swap him into the Executioner's Sword. But now we know for a fact that he was, well, not for a fact, but we know that he was probably out there helping Yuta fight Kenjaku with, like, the boogie woogie. So it explains why they wouldn't go over to fight Sukuna like that. Todo became the coolest character, and now he's beating Sukuna while playing an instrument for an arm. Yeah, guys, like, Todo has all the energy of a gorilla on a jet ski. Like, it's ridiculous, but it is cool to watch. Who has a shape-shifting curse technique? Sukuna, kind of. If we count, like, the one giant head bobble. But I wouldn't really call that shape-shifting. There's the potential Takaba join the fight and use his CT because Sukuna to hallucinate. That's possible, but I feel like that's a serious. Like, Gege Akatame is actually the ultimate troll if this isn't Gojo. Like, let's be real. Like, they will never forgive him. Gojo fans will actually cement themselves in pure anger. Swap me in the damn Executioner Sword at this point. Yeah, Tiberius, how you doing, man? And thanks for letting me know on Twitter that I put the wrong thumbnail in. Gojo Curse Corpse Theory. Officially, Todo is the smartest in JJK. Guys, Boogie Woogie is boogie busted. I've always held to that fact that, like, the simplest techniques are often OP. And Todo's Boogie Woogie really is so goddamn useful, they had to remove him from the fight. They just had to remove him because he's just too good. Just too damn good. I don't even know how you handle that, to be honest. Like, the limitation of Boogie Woogie is really just the writing. Especially if he can swap multiple people at once now. Sukuna hitting the Hanami pose in the anime while getting destroyed by the best duo. Yeah. Gege actually loves to make the fans angry, so that's nothing new. I don't think he intentionally makes fans angry. There are a couple moments of subversion, but overall, I think Gege Akatame tries to stay on course. Yeah, they had to write him out temporarily. Yeah, Todo did have to get written out. Too good. So the thing here is, I want to talk about the merger for a second, because the merger is the overall plot, the big plot event we're all waiting for. It's the only real wild card left besides Megami or Yuji's backstory. Gojo coming back into all of this, not only does it make JJK more interesting for me a little bit, like, I didn't think I was going to like Gojo coming back, but the way they just plopped him in, the story could be really interesting now, and the story could have moments where either Sukuna has something left in his bag, like I was saying previously, or you're just going to have a giant merger creature pop out, or Sukuna's going to just absolutely ascend. Either way, Gojo's presence on the battlefield just inherently not only ups the ante, but it ups the entire power level required to fight the current battle for Sukuna, because he can't fight him right now. If this is Gojo, even at like 75% power, what the fuck is Sukuna going to do? He's like on his last legs, apparently. Maybe he's not, but like, if we're just looking at what we see, Sukuna's not a good spot. Like, there's no way. The merger has to be coming very, very soon. I agree. Like it's either a red herring or it's coming. It's coming in like the next few chapters. Probably next chapter, if we're being honest. Y'all better not get your hopes up. I don't know. Them actually teasing Gojo that badly is insane. I almost went live last night the moment I read because I saw Pew Peas posted on Twitter that this was going to be like that. He posted the final page before any of the chapter leaks came out. I've seen a lot of complaints about things like Disney writing, about like the writing being shit. Like there is you can please no one in JJK. If Gojo comes back, it's shit writing. If Gojo dies, it's shit writing. Just how it is. People want their characters to live and fight. This is how it goes. It's obviously Yuta with the 6 eyes. Yes, it's very obviously Yuta with the 6 eyes. How could we all be mistaken? We're all dumb. How could we ever mistake Gojo for Yuta? Excuse me, mistake Yuta for Gojo. Did you see the theory that the speech bubble with the domain expansion is actually Ghost Gojo saying it, or do you think it's Sukuna opening it? I think it is Gojo. Or Ghost Gojo. I swear to God, if we call him Ghost Gojo, I'm gonna lose it. But Gojo, if he is opening up a domain expansion, because Sukuna is about to open up his, and like there's no reason for him to stop. They're probably gonna clash again, and the Gojo is like the only person we know of that can actually domain clash Ryoma and Sukuna. So I think that makes enough sense. Seance can bring back soul and body info. Maybe Yuta did copy Seance, but like those are some serious hoops. But we've had this entire time, Ui has been picking up people and teleporting them back. Ghost Joe. But Ui has been picking up people, teleporting them back. If Gojo is alive after being chopped in half, Higuruma's probably alive too, if I'm being honest. Or he's back in some way. They're probably all back. It's probably going to be everybody versus Sukuna or the merger. That'd be my expectation. Gojo got more killed. He got killed harder. Got more killed, excuse me. He got killed harder than anybody. Anyone we've seen die so far, except for like maybe Nanami. He just got detonated. But like he got hard chopped in half. He had his whole last moment montage and then said, man, I thought nobody died without regrets, and then he like passed on, and the narrator said he was dead. If he's back, there's hope for everyone, guys. It could be a cursed corpse with Higuruma and the Kashima soul with Gojo. You see, that's what I thought originally with the Gojo comes back with the copyright strike for his hand signs. Yeah. He's coming in for the copyright claim Sukuna. How would Sukuna get powered up again? I mean, we don't know what his technique is still. I mean, we know it's Shrine, but there's always a chance for more. Gege Akatame can really write whatever they want at the end of the day. And Sukuna is a known cannibal. And Yuji gets power-ups from eating people. If Sukuna eats somebody, it's a pretty easy option. Y'all, Nobara comeback imminent. Yeah, Nobara comeback might be imminent. I'll be honest. Anything is possible now. The moment Todo showed up after 100 chapters of like zero fucking dialogue, he's just like, "What's up, guys? I'm here to fight Ryoma and Sukuna. Anything's possible." Like Gege Akatame does not care at all about waiting 100 chapters to pull somebody back in. And same goes for Megami. If Gojo is indeed back, what do you want to see happen from that point? Well, I'll be honest, guys. I don't know where the story is going to go if Gojo is back. And like I said, the obvious assumption is the merger. But what form the merger takes, if the merger is going to be used as a buff, if the merger is going to have some different motivation, because Kenjaku does hint towards a separate end goal to the Culling games that we don't know about yet. I'd be fine with Gojo coming back. I hope it makes sense. I hope the explanation isn't too goofy. I imagine it's probably going to be pretty cheesy. Sukuna eats the merger. That's a possibility. Hey, Quirkless, been a minute. Hope you're doing okay. We missed ya. Much appreciated. Thanks for the kind words. Where's the, Todo got an insane buff, and I'm also doing great. Thanks for asking. 6 Eyes users will always appear during the day of the merger, so Gojo coming back makes sense. That is a good point, Jotaro. Jotaro 420. To be fair, 100 chapters in the storyline is not that much time. 100 chapters in the storyline is like over a third of the series. And pulled up Tripping 2, 50 swaps per second. Yeah, but guys, I'll be honest, I don't trust Miyamura's translations that much. I view them as like a rough outline, so we'll see. We'll see. I usually wait for TCB. You think Sukuna is hallucinating? I mean, if he's hallucinating, that is actually the greatest troll of an end chapter thing I've ever seen. Explanation? You mean a binding vow? That is a good point. It could just be a binding vow, and I always thought that binding vows are by far the worst part of Jujutsu Kaisen's power system, because they have no rules around them. Like, the rules around them, or I should say the rules that do exist around them, are just way too flimsy. Like, there's too many unknowns. 100 chapters is like 2 months in universe. I mean, yeah, but for us, like 100 chapters is, we're looking at like the actual story time. Like 100 chapters of a manga is a lot to have a character gone. How is Sukuna near death? He was trying to expand his domain. I mean, I wouldn't say he's necessarily near death. Maybe that's the wrong word for it, but he's definitely on a point where his output's dropping. He's dealing with Boogie Woogie. He was about to open up another domain expansion to likely use the fire arrow again. Probably an open furnace. If he can. But again, they have Boogie Woogie, so Todo could just swap them all out again as an option. That's exactly why I don't buy it. Cliffhangers always turn out to be something else. And that's a good point, China Doll. It could be something else. Like, I'm not going to say with 100% certainty that Gojo is back, but for the sake of this stream, I'm going to mostly talk about it under the assumption Gojo is back, because that's just the most interesting conversation at the moment. And I think that's what people want to talk about. Sukuna is definitely dying soon. I wouldn't be so sure. Unfortunately, the best explanation for binding vows is what Reggie said, sorcerers are con artists. Yeah, binding vows, they just have, you're able to do too much with them. Like, you even have Hikari. I think Hikari is the worst one, where he just sacrifices his arm. And he's like, oh, I live. I just survived the Kashimo explosion. I remember when I read that, and I was like, oh my god. Like, why does nobody else do this when they're about to die? What if it's Hikari? What's Hikari gonna do? Hikari's out there fighting the fridge. Fraud Joe fans falling for bait. You know, some Gojo fans brought up a pretty good point for some of the reasons that he could come back. Other Gojo fans kind of sound like a crazy hobo who's talking about the aliens taking his cattle. And then when the aliens all invade, he's like, see guys, I told you so. They were taking my cows for years. You're all fucking crazy. They all called me crazy. I was right. And you're like, yeah, I mean, you were right, but like, you're still a little crazy. Given the situation and him doing Gojo's mudra, I don't see, that's the term. I can't remember the pronunciation for the Buddhist mudras. Hand signs. I wish binding vows were just regulated to increase curse energy. Were just regulated to increases to curse energy. Yeah, it would make more sense. It'd be a lot less broken. And to be fair, I think Hunter x Hunter has the same problem with binding vows that Jujutsu Kaisen does, which is that restricting your, like, having a restriction that makes you OP is just a door wide open for bullshit. Even if there is like a big payoff or like a big cost to pay. Excuse me. Sukuna confirmed Todo hater. Well, it's because Todo's dangerous. Todo is truly dangerous. Like, Todo's technique, if you just look at it, like, remember when Higuruma cut off had Sukuna cut off his own hand with the Executioner's sword, well then couldn't Todo just clap his hand and teleport him onto the sword? Just swap him with his hand. Just bullshit like that. It's just way too exploitable. I don't think JJK will end without Yuji expanding his domain, Megami reaching full potential. I think it could end without Yuji having a domain. Megami is definitely going to make an appearance, especially with the way they set it up. I mean, if Gojo's coming back, Megami's coming back. To be honest, Gojo lost already to Sukuna. This means his comeback is just to defeat a nerf Sukuna is kind of disrespectful for both Sukuna and Gojo. Well, that's under the assumption that he is coming back to just defeat a nerf Sukuna. Because if Gojo's coming back, Gege Akutami has a plan for this character. God has a plan. He has plans for Gojo. It's not just he's not just coming back to beat Sukuna. There's no way. That'd be ridiculous. Like, he was already starting to lose. Or, like, the characters were starting to make some serious headway in beating him. At least as far as we know, because we don't know the full extent of Sukuna's power. We know he has the giant furnace, like, that's the strongest thing he has. But there's still room for more bullshit. But at the end of the day, bringing back Gojo just to beat Sukuna is kind of pointless. So I feel like it's for something else, like the merger. JJK shouldn't end for another 200 chapters. Too many loose ends. What loose ends do you think there are that can't be covered in like 50? I'm curious. Gojo is the one who nerfed Sukuna in the first place. That is fair. It's very true. And if he does fight a four-armed Sukuna, I really hope it isn't just like two nerfed versions of these characters fighting. If we're going to see Gojo fight Sukuna again, have him actually fight the four-armed demon form. And give us a definitive answer as to who is stronger. Like, I know on paper Gojo still loses in the domain fight, even without Furnace. But, like, it doesn't feel good for, like, all of these, oh, maybe Gojo coulda, shoulda, woulda done this. Like, actually show us. Give us a definitive answer that, like, neither a Sukuna fan nor a Gojo fan can sit there and, like, cope about for the next 5 years. Just have them, like, straight up show us why one character is stronger. And then just have them confirm it in dialogue and confirm it in narration. Like, I don't know why that's so hard. And then we never have to deal with, like, the constant arguments ever again. Sukuna has one arm left. Yeah, he's definitely running out of hands. You know, JJK loves robbing people of their arms. So who do you think it is? Is it Gojo or Gojaku? Kenjaku got his head stabbed. So I just don't see the point. Like, he's done. He is more dumb than anybody. He got his brain stabbed and he said, my will be passed on. Maybe he was talking about, like, how would he even get his brain over there? Like, Yudo is right there. It doesn't make a ton of sense, but maybe. You know, maybe, like, there's a lot of bullshit that goes on in Jujutsu Kaisen. I can't really rule it out entirely, though I'd say it's unlikely. Some people would still debate, yeah, but you know, some people still debate if the Earth is flat. Like, at some point, eventually, the argument gets like to a point of so stupid that like only the most deranged people take part in it, and I prefer it to be there, and not like where it currently is, where Jujutsu Kaisen, the whole fight with Gojo and Sukuna has such a huge fandom battle in it. Still, I just want something more definitive and not like, oh man, maybe I would have lost even without the Ten Shadows technique, or like maybe Gojo could have stabbed him in the fucking head or something. Just give us an actual showcase. Show, don't tell, as they say. Yeah, the Earth is flat. My mistake, guys. The Earth is flat. If Yuji becomes the strongest, there's going to be another shift like when Gojo was born. Oh, I agree. And I think there's going to be a shift regardless of whether or not Yuji becomes the strongest because, well, I mean, Yuji is pretty much guaranteed to one day become the strongest, at least on his current trajectory. He is truly potential, man. What if it's something Megami is doing since Yuji just landed a Black Flash? It's possible. I see. I thought it might be Megami when I first saw him hit the punch. Or like when they're like, okay, Sukuna's trying to see something. But upon further inspection, if it's not Gojo, it could be something like, I don't know, the whole memory implantation thing that Yuji tends to do. Some people, a really crazy theory I saw was that Gojo, this isn't Gojo, and the person he's thinking of that he killed was his brother, and his brother was the original Six Eyes user, and like blah 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 blah, and like their mother was Tengen or something like this, because Six Eyes users keep showing up around Tengen. I don't know about that. That sounds a little out there. It would be kind of cool if it was like a different Six Eyes user, though. That would be pretty that'd be pretty out there. I can't lie. Sukuna was really about to pull another domain expansion. Yeah, that's honestly fucking wild. I couldn't believe he was about to do that. Just pop it off immediately. I assume he was going to use Furnace if he could. Yuta about to use Gojo's technique. I mean, I feel like if Yuta could use these Six Eyes, he would have already. Yuji hallucination jutsu. Yeah, you know, guys, I'll say it again. The possibility of it being a hallucination, it's there. And people who are treating this as like a guaranteed fact already, it's a little insane. Like, it's jumping to conclusions at like the highest order. It is one panel of Gojo, of maybe Gojo. But it's fun to talk about. How much cursed energy does Sukuna have left? Sukuna has enough cursed energy to fight for as long as he's going to fight. The same way that Totality Maharaga takes, like, the time Totality takes is however long it takes for Megami to come back, down to like the last microsecond. Because he's not going to get it until then. That's just how it be. This really is the craziest cliffhanger. This is definitely the biggest cliffhanger since 236. I swear to God, if I don't see a Miwa domain next chapter, I'm a fly over to Japan and write that shit myself. I don't know if you have to fly to Japan to write that shit yourself, to be honest. Because only Sukuna looked in Gojo's direction and Yuji didn't. Well, that's because, I mean, Yuji was locked in on, like, ripping out Sukuna's sternum, to be fair. Where is the Gojo glaze? It's always been here the whole time. Don't you know, Croclo Shinobi is the #1 Gojo glazer. He told me himself. Will Gojo be the one defeating Sukuna? Oh, no. Almost certainly not. Kind of has to be Yuji. Like, the thing right now is, even if Gojo does come back, Sukuna is in the middle of a character arc. And until that's finished, he's not going to die. Especially when we have the confirmation that they're related to each other. It's the same problem I had with, like, prior to the Furnace Open being shown to us. Gojo, like, during the Gojo fight, he was never going to beat Gojo, not because he wasn't, Gojo was never going to beat Sukuna, not because Gojo couldn't beat Sukuna in a fight. That wasn't what I was trying to say at the time. It's that as long as Sukuna has, like, this giant, massively hidden technique, there's no way the story was going to end without them showing it, with how it was built up. But now the Fire Arrow is out there, Sukuna could die, or Sukuna could be put in a bad position. As far as we know, there is not necessarily anything left for Sukuna to showcase, except for, like, maybe the Trident, the Trishula, the Hiten. This isn't the final fight for sure. I agree, Jamaica Queens. I absolutely agree. There's something else coming here, and, like, I feel like the major plot reveal next chapter is going to make or break Jujutsu Kaisen for me. Like, it's gotta be good. Like I said at the beginning of the stream, we're in the tunnel, guys. We are in the roller coaster tunnel. It is pitch black. We can't see the exit. It's either going to go way up or have, like, a drop off into rock bottom. Because there's only two ways a Gojo return goes, and it's either absolutely dog shit or amazing. There's no mediocre Gojo return, because it's going to be fucking ridiculous. If it's like okay, people are going to be pissed. At least a large portion of people, I should say. kind of feel like Fuga is a bit underwhelming. I mean, he like pressure cooks you in his domain. That's like the most overpowered like direct attack we've seen in the series besides, or I should say, I say quote unquote direct attack as if it's not just a giant combustible dust bomb. But besides like the black hole, I don't know what else you're looking at for firepower that's even remotely close. Not Hollow Purple is not as big of an explosion, not even close. Even if there is a dog shit explanation of Gojo coming back, 90% of the fandom are already sold on it. Yeah, but that's part of it. It's just like people can be very reactionary to these things, and that's fine. It's a hype series. It's not like it's anything like I was about to say. It's not like it's important. Obviously, it is important to people, but it is one of those things. It's one of those things that people are just going to be hyped at immediately, no matter what. That's just the way anime culture is, especially on Twitter, guys. I wouldn't look at Twitter as like the peak of like non-biased thoughts about people's favorite characters. Like the most deranged fanboys live on Twitter. That's just how it is. And I think it's partially because Twitter doesn't really facilitate having an extended thought on something. I mean, by its nature, it doesn't have really, like, you can only write so many characters. So people are usually out there to just pop off their thoughts. Brandon Williams, super chats. What's up, Quirkless? Glad I could catch this stream with SO show. Do I even know what that means? Am I actually brain dead? To Jamaica Queens, by the way, I am from that area too. Oh, shout out to Jamaica Queens, by the way, I am from that area too. Okay, I am brain dead. It's good to know. Thank you very much, Brandon. It's good to see you here, dude. One of my first shout out to Brandon. W in the chat for Brandon. Awesome guy. Always supported this channel. Even when my videos get striked. If Gojo returns, I don't want to hear talking-ish about Demon Slayer, dude. Okay, Demon Slayer is like a different level of donkey. Can I say that in this chat? Alright, no offense to any Demon Slayer. No offense to any Demon Slayer fans. But Demon Slayer is the tiny people of Tiny Swords manga. So, the other day, okay, slight tangent, guys. I know this is what I do, but off topic of JJK, the other day, somebody told me, when I said that solo leveling wasn't that good, somebody said in the comment section that, like, oh man, you think solo leveling's bad? Well, and you think JJK is good? Media literacy is at an all-time low. And I'm like, if you think that media literacy is reading solo leveling, we're actually fucked. There is no hope left. Like, our generation is cooked. It's over. Like, if that is if solo leveling is the representation of media literacy, we're never going to college, boys. We're never making it past picture books. I love solo leveling. That's fine. If you like, I'm not saying people can like solo leveling all they want. It's a pretty good power fantasy. Actually, solo leveling is up there with Shakespeare's works. Yes, it's on the literary level. Truly a generational work like J.R.R. Tolkien. I'm a #1 Boruto glazer, not gonna lie. Gege could never write the twists and turns present in solo leveling. That's true. It's too much. Alright, back to Jujutsu Kaisen, guys. So on the note of, not to shit, and just before we move on, not to shit on solo leveling. If you like solo leveling, there's nothing wrong with that. People can like whatever they want. But like this constant battle between fandoms of like fucking manga exclusively when like all these people read our picture books is just insane to me. Like there's way more stuff. You can like two things. Or you could not like one thing and still enjoy another thing. It doesn't mean that someone's like brain dead. So let's see what the polls add here. 548 votes. 66% say they like the idea of Gojo coming back. And yeah, Jaded, other YouTuber, I'm sure many of you know him. He's been on here a couple times. He said to me that Gojo coming back is a net positive for the series, and I kind of agree. Sometimes. But overall, if it's handled poorly, it could be pretty shit. Like, it has the potential to be shit like nothing else in Jujutsu Kaisen. You can enjoy bad writing, lol. I look at the Venom movies. Okay, Venom movies are like peak garbage. Like, truly schlock, but amazing. Do you think the merger will happen? Oh, I think the merger is probably going to happen. Like, if Gojo is back... Here, I'll just put it in like very simplistic terms here. If Gojo is back, the merger is almost guaranteed to happen. Like, if this is actually Gojo, if he's actually fighting, there is no way. Net positive, what a Gojo Glazer has to say. Hey, Jaded's not necessarily a Gojo Glazer. He just likes Gojo. Gojo coming back will make the airport scene look stupid. It depends on what he has to say when he comes back, guys. I would really hold judgment on one panel. Favorite movie Spider-Man? Tobey Maguire, even though he's like a psychotic human in real life. He likes to ruin people's lives with gambling. If you know, you know. Yeah, no way Gojo returns and there is no merger. Agreed. Is Gojo a Culling game player? That's a good question. Possibly not, but most likely he could just sign up. Actually, it's been a while since I read the Culling game rules. He might not be able to. I'm sure somebody knows. It's not me right now, though. He's just Sakari for real. Yeah, Tobey Maguire's just Sakari. If you loan money out to people to, like, ruin their lives. Gojo Glazers are something else. I ain't gonna disagree. Okay, it was a bit of a cult there for a bit. Only a little bit. I've seen worse. I've seen Logan Paul fans, okay? It does get worse. At least Gojo's not out there scamming people and then still having them like him. Also, if Gojo comes back, it just confirms Sukuna should double tap. Oh yeah. I mean, he should have definitely. I don't see why people think Gojo coming back is bad. I've seen Pickle Rick fans. That's an excellent point. Especially considering what happened at the end of that whole arc. Why hasn't Sukuna regenerated his arms or his heart? Because his RCT is slowed. And he's been getting punched repeatedly by Yuji's fists, which are breaking down the output and the hold over the body. So they stopped the RCT boost that he would have gotten from his black flashes. So really, Yuji is the one who has put in the most work outside of Gojo. If it weren't for him, they'd be dead. They'd be extremely dead by now. I can't believe people will call 236 bad writing, but then unironically think that Gojo coming back to either die of old age or kill Sukuna is good. I kind of agree, but I also think part of that is Twitter. Like, when you look at some of the other forum posts for Jujutsu Kaisen, they can still be pretty, like, Gojo-centric, but the complaints about writing are usually isolated to, like, Twitter and, like, parts of YouTube. There are still people that like to look at, like, some of the more in-depth things. And again, it is a reactionary thing, inherently. It's a weekly series. Like, the build-up and crescendo of a weekly payoff is the whole shtick. We don't have all the information yet, and people sit there complaining about things that we have like 40% of the info on. How the fuck is he able to expand another domain? Because Sukuna's him. He probably just did the exact same thing he did against Gojo. Just destroyed that part of his brain, brought it back. He did that less than Gojo anyways. Because back in the Gojo versus Sukuna fight, Sukuna only opened up a domain 3 times. Gojo's death was an ass pull. Which part? Because when you reread the fight, it makes a lot of sense. And it was pretty clearly the point from the beginning. Gojo fans have formed a cult too big to disband, too big for Gege to anger for too long. He had to bring Gojo back. I mean, Gege Akatame has a pen name. They can definitely just kill him again. Nobody even knows where Gege Akatame is. Or what they even look like. Every week people say JJK is shit, then proceed to read it. That's just how it is. Is there a break next week? No, there's not. For one, I am cool with Gojo coming back if it makes sense. I'll say it again, I'll say it forever. Gojo coming back isn't inherently a bad thing. I think people who are saying it's Disney writing because they saw one panel of one of Gojo's eyeballs is like an insane take. It does kind of, I will say if he comes back, it does kind of make the airport scene, like somebody else said, does make it look a little dumb. Because the airport scene was very final for Gojo's character. It is odd for him to say, I'm glad I didn't die of old age and I died against somebody stronger than me for him to come back. That's just a really stupid phrase. Do you think Sukuna is desperate? I do. I do think Sukuna's desperate right now. I think I'd have to be absolutely glazing him to say he's not. Like, he could have more stuff. He could be able to pop off. Like, you know, Urame didn't say that he's actually going all out yet, but let's be real. If he's using the furnace open, like, it is some serious Sukuna glazing to say he's not going all out. So until we have, like, more confirmation of that, I can't really say he's not. He must be desperate. That's my opinion. Pump Post Super Chats. Which do we think is more likely? The twin having 6 eyes or having 0 cursed energy such heavenly restriction? Also, when Sukuna compared Maharaga, was the ancient sorcerer the ancestor of Gojo/Yuta? He was comparing Maharaga to Yamato no Orochi, which is a mythological Japanese 8-headed serpent that the god Susanoo killed. I'm sure most of you know what Susanoo is because you read Naruto, because we're weebs. But Sukuna in Jujutsu Kaisen, he is Susanoo, and it's really obvious, especially if you talk to some Japanese readers, like the parallels to Susanoo are very clear. He is a harvest deity. He is related to love. They have him fighting Yamato no Orochi. There's a couple other things as well. But yes, in the world of Jujutsu Kaisen, Susanoo is Sukuna. Or at least it's very heavily implied to be him. Whether or not it means he's literally divine, we'll have to wait and see. And as for him having a heavenly restriction or these 6 eyes, you know, I was leaning towards a heavenly restriction. I was just thinking about this the other day, and I'm glad you brought this up. But with the whole him having the 6 eyes, that's far more recent. That's pretty much like today I heard people talking about this for the first time. So I'd be inclined to lean towards the heavenly restriction for his twin. But if it is 6 eyes, that also makes a lot of sense. And would also explain why he's so shocked if this is the ghost of his brother who he killed. And that would be quite a twist, though most people are expecting Gojo. And thanks again for the super chat. Hopefully that answered your question. Lol HF super chats. Crazy, only 5 minutes passed since stream start. Felt like 45. Good to know you were still going to stream for another 40. Am I already at 45 minutes? Oh, we are at 45 minutes. Well, you know, I said 45 minutes of Gojo glazing. I didn't say it was going to be a 45-minute stream. As long as there's at least 45 minutes of Gojo being number 1. That's what matters, right? Oh yeah, Sukuna versus Maharaga was literally Susanoo versus Yamato no Orochi. Exactly. It is pretty neat. And it also explains why that like Sukuna was out there fighting Yamato no Orochi. Now, on the note of Yamato no Orochi, was the Yamato no Orochi some massive cursed spirit? That's what I've always wondered. Because if Yamato, if they say the nine-tailed fox, like Mahito mentions this very briefly at the beginning of the series, that the nine-tailed fox and a lot of the legendary mythical creatures in humanity's past are cursed spirits. So I'm assuming Yamato no Orochi was a cursed spirit he fought. Must have been a pretty legendary one, if it's remembered for that long. Now 45 minutes of Gojo slander to balance it out. How can I ever do that? I have a Gojo PFP. I'm basically one of them. Gojo should have hit Meguna with a Hollow Purple once the Void hit. I don't think he could. I don't think he's ever showcased the ability to do that. I don't think he's ever showcased using a purple in a domain. Any kind of barrier, actually. Or a reversal for that matter. Actually, did he? No, he didn't. He didn't even use a reversal inside of the domain while he was active. He used it inside of Sukuna's. Why Sukuna didn't sense Gojo's cursed energy, Yuji and Todo also, and the narrator says a mysterious silhouette. I don't have the answer for that right now because we have one panel. We also don't know if it's literally Gojo. Ui can TP nukes to Sukuna if you think about it. Oh, I've thought about it. Teleportation is busted, guys. Everybody talks about Infinity for Gojo like it's like Gojo's best ability, as if warping space isn't the most cracked shit on the fucking planet. If he is able, like Gojo is able to both compress 2 points in space to just like pseudo teleport to them. You know, it's basically warping. It's like Star Trek warping. I'm pretty sure it's the same concept. And he is also able to hyperspeed himself by pulling himself with blue. He can do both. And that's cracked. And we saw him teleport from the bottom of the Japan Trench. If he is able to move himself or other people by compressing space through walls, though they kind of imply he has to have like a clear line of sight. Either way, just like teleport Sukuna like up in the air and just drop him. Like, I don't know how much force Sukuna can withstand, but like if you drop him from orbit, I imagine it's gonna fucking hurt. As far as I know, he can't fly, not yet. He doesn't have fucking wings. A Boogie Woogie is broken too. Yeah, it is. Boogie Woogie is absolutely cracked. Anything with teleportation, guys, is just busted. Like an infinite shield barrier, that's pretty good if you want to live to like a direct attack. But if you're like at a similar speed level and you can just teleport somebody, you're busted. You are absolutely busted. Just put them in the core of the earth. He can air hop. That's true. That is true. He's gonna air hop. He's gonna air hop. He's gonna run down from orbit. That would be pretty funny. I guess he has to teleport him up, so like a little bit further, so he has to drop and like re-enter the atmosphere, burn up in it. You have to have like a meteorite of Gojo, like, excuse me, you have to have a meteorite of Sukuna fly down. Yeah, you can skywalk, but can't he skywalk if he's like re-entering the atmosphere? How long can he survive in space? Yorame, we've won. Ui teleports Sukuna into the center of the sun. Real and true, though I don't think it has that much range. Why are people so impatient with JJK writing? I blame leaks culture. I blame the fact that people don't even read Jujutsu Kaisen half the time. And when I say that, I mean they legitimately don't read the actual publication. They just read the leaks and then move on with their week. The sun is available to TP. Is it? It's why Gege didn't have Gojo use teleportation much. If it was me, I'm spamming that move all the time. You should be, because Gojo's teleport's cracked. It's absolutely cracked. It's a ridiculous thing. And like honestly, the characters, their power sets are so damn stupid. Like I really wish an anime or a series would just let characters cheese their power sets. Like there was a book series I read once, or I should say I listened to it on an audiobook, and it had these guys in like super OP magical plate. They had like this. They had impenetrable magical plate armor, so like nobody could pierce it. It took like it could take the the equivalent of like a 10,000 dagger stabs or something. So the way these peasants managed to take on these super ultra magical knights is they just tackled them to the ground, tied them up, and then just stabbed them for hours on end until they finally got through. And like, see, it's that kind of cheese and effort I want from characters with their power sets, because if you can teleport people, just like make the biggest bomb ever, make the biggest cursed energy bomb and just drop it on Sukuna. Just teleport it right in front of him. Like, what's he gonna do? He's just gonna blow up. At the very least, you're gonna injure him. I swear, Gojo didn't use his teleportation much. I don't get why. Well, the reason why, there is a reason, or I should say, there's the implication of a reason, which is that he has, under certain conditions, he can do that. Hey, Quirkless, do you think RCT has a reversal? Well, RCT is reverse curse technique, though, like, it itself is, like, you use reverse, like, you have to generate positive curse energy to use your curse technique reversal. Reverse curse technique itself, like, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure, like, it is the name for the application of the healing aspect of positive curse energy, and then a curse technique reversal is the curse technique version of using your positive curse energy, where you use the reversal of your curse technique. So in this case for Gojo Red, I'm pretty sure that's correct. He will pull a Hikari and sacrifice his hands to survive. Yeah, that was some bullshit. Okay, blowing up, just like losing your arm, not only losing your arm, but losing an arm you can grow back to survive. How do you ever kill Hikari? He should just be binding vowing. Like if he's in jackpot, just binding vow your arm off all the time. I don't remember, but do all the Culling Game players have to die for the merger? Just asking. It sounds like they do, because Sukuna does say, like, they say that everybody has to, well, maybe they don't have to die necessarily, but Sukuna does say, I'm going to go kill all the Culling Games players and then fight the merger. Because the condition for it to end was that only Megumi, Fushiguro, and Kenjaku, or in this case Geto, are still alive. A Gege knew Gojo is too OP because Limitless literally plays with reality. It does play with reality, but it's also, you know, it's a curse technique. It's not exactly one-to-one with, like, endless reality warping. So there are limitations. He just doesn't explain the limitations. And, like, to be fair, saying that there are limitations and then not explaining the limitations is probably better than, like, putting the most strict rules on something like reality warping for a writer, because it becomes a little ridiculous if you have to constantly juggle that. Though it does lead to the natural problem that people will wonder, okay, what are the limitations? Why couldn't he just do it here? And then you're just stuck wondering, like, okay, I guess he just couldn't do it. And that's your answer. It's just like he couldn't because he didn't. Which isn't very satisfying, but that's all Gege Akatami gives us. Yuki Infinite Mass Punch Go Burr. Yeah, if she could do an Infinite Mass Punch. But she'd probably turn into a black hole before that. 1 million Gojos versus Cosmic Garo. Cosmic Garo every single time. Like, what are 1 million Gojos going to do to Cosmic Garo? He'll just blow up the planet and leave. All casinos are rigged. Preach. Sukuna is so weak, why bring Gojo now? That's an excellent question. I'm glad you asked, because I was just talking to a fellow YouTuber, Eternal Flame, about this. That for Gojo to come back now, Gege Akatami has many things. They are not a hack writer. If this is Satoru Gojo, there's a plan in mind. He is not just here to beat Sukuna's ass. Or Sukuna, like, and the options are either A, the merger is going to pop off, or Sukuna is actually more cracked than anybody ever possibly imagined, and he's just going to fight everybody. And him holding back has been, like, going on the entire time still, even after Furnace. Though, personally, I think it's the first one. I think it's the merger. Because Gojo being back inherently ups, like, the power required in the fight. So I am curious to see where it goes. I'm more interested for the next chapter than I have been for chapters in a while. Didn't Kenjaku change the conditions? I think he did, but I'm pretty sure he set them to that Megami Fushiguro can start the merger. Maybe that still requires him to have to kill everybody. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm going to assume he doesn't have to. Though he makes it sound like he wants to kill everybody there anyways, but again, this is Sukuna. Yeah, or Sukuna is that OP. That is real and true, Jamaica Queens. Like, Sukuna could just be that OP. That is an option. Like, if Gojo comes back and he has to fight everybody, or I should say, if Gojo comes back and Sukuna is stuck fighting everybody. Nah, if Sukuna pulls through them, Gojo is a fraud. I mean, from the sounds of it, like, nah, I'd win. That was him talking about, like, nah, you know, I'm going to make a plan to go and win. But he did say it as a pretty first-person thing. It's like, I personally am going to beat you. Which is why it is so memed. If he's back, that means he would have to get a power-up. You think Gojo would have to get a power-up? I don't think Gojo would have to get a power-up. I think Gojo would just have to fight alongside other people. Or maybe I think you're talking about Sukuna. If Sukuna won, what would he do after that? Travel the world? I mean, probably just eat people to pass the time until he dies, because Sukuna is kind of like just the most hedonistic piece of shit on the planet. He is truly awful. A Gojo could have meant ideologically wise. Yeah, I agree. And I made a video about this many moons ago, before the Gojo fight occurred, and people called me a Gojo. People got so pissed at me when I said that, like, Gojo's true victory over Sukuna was that he had built up a generation that could face Sukuna alongside him, and he wasn't alone in this fight. And people were like, oh man, this is cope for the next Sukuna victim. And, like, really what it was like, it was a band-aid for the Gojo fans that I knew were going to be mad when Gojo got chopped in half. Yo, I just got here. Do you think it's Gojo? I do. I don't know who else it would be. I mean, either it's a living Gojo or ghost Gojo. Either way, it's probably Gojo. Either Gojo is back but nerfed like only one 6-eye, or someone else gets 6 eyes, or Gege is cooking hard. I think it's Gege is cooking hard, because having a nerfed Gojo come back, like, just keep him dead at that point. There are still other characters to bring back into the fight. How high would you put Todo now that he has gotten a buff? That's a good question. I haven't really thought about it that much extensively, so I can't really give the best answer. I haven't really scaled it. But Boogie Woogie is busted, and he is scaling to a nerf Sukuna, but more importantly, he is scaling to a Yuji who at least like partially scaled to a domain buffed Yuta. So Todo's up there. Todo is definitely up there. Very strong, and his ping pong hand is better than ever, somehow. Todo is literally the most busted support character now. Absolutely. His eye is gone. I mean, I just figured, like, that's like saying, in the hidden inventory chapter where he has like, yo, long time no see, and he's covering up one eye. Like, I think it's just an artistic choice. Let me take a look at that page for a second. Yeah, I think it's like maybe one eye is gone, but like, what's the point? Honestly. Like, he lost an eye against Sukuna anyways before when he was in the domain temporarily. I don't even know if like he need both eyes to use the 6 eyes. Maybe his fist will just miss because he has no more depth perception. Like, that's the real nerf. Didn't Gege say either one survives and all die, or all die and one survives? Well, you know what that means, guys. That means Yuji and Megami are fucked. Because this is Gojo Kaisen. The point would be to nerf him. Yeah, I'm just saying if you're gonna nerf Gojo to bring him back, I don't see the point in bringing him back at all. Like I already honestly right now I don't see a ton of point in bringing back Gojo unless something major changes in the fight. Because the current role that Gojo would fit is fighting Sukuna and potentially beating him, and they're already fighting Sukuna and potentially beating him. All he'd have to do is like maybe write out the second domain expansion that he's about to do. 6 eyes would be half efficient. Says who? Who says that like 1 6 eye is worse than 2? I mean, I think it's a fair assumption, but we don't know how they work exactly because he did get like an eye chopped. Imagine Gojo comes back full revenge mode and goes crazy, like damaging Yuji and Todo a little and just going ham on Sukuna. You see, this just sounds like fanfiction at this point. Like Gege Akatame, as much as I know like some of the Gojo fans want him to just come back and just body Sukuna, that's not how Gege Akatame writes things. They don't just write things for pure fan service. He's gonna come back with a purpose if it's him. That's the big thing. What the fuck was the point of that amazing fight for the strongest? Find out next week on Jujutsu Kaisen, chapter 261. Yeah, Gege isn't writing One Punch Man fights. Yeah, it does sound like fanfic. That guys, I'll be honest. Okay, maybe I'll get roasted for this, but when I first read that, I was like, when they were like, the ghost of Gojo is back, I'm like, what fucking 8-year-old wrote this dialogue? Was my immediate thought. You know Gege Akatame is like sitting there. It's like gave the pen to their son, and he was like, the ghost of Gojo returns, dude. It sounds like something you'd see an entire Twitter thread about, like how Jujutsu Kaisen is like actually heat, fire, and peak. How many chapters do you think JJK has left? Probably like, definitely till the end of the year. Maybe like 20, 30. The translations are always off in the leaks, yes, and unfortunately people treat them like truth. What did 100 say? I'll ask him right now. Gege editors want some more Gojo. Yeah, they got a gun against Gege's head. Put back in Gojo. Make us more money. We want 2 Shibuya memorials now. For his first death and second death. Is Gojo really back? It's a definite maybe. Hey, Gege, the edgelord of anime. He really does write some edgy shit, I can't lie. Like, as much as I think that Jujutsu Kaisen is written more like a seinen, or it's definitely written above, it definitely punches above its bracket in like age demographic occasionally. There are some lines that maybe it's just a translation to English that makes them sound goofier than they are. But things like, are you the strongest because you're Satoru Gojo, or are you Satoru Gojo because you're the strongest, dude? These things are memed for a reason because, like, even though they are kind of true, they're just, like, written in the most pretentious way possible. It's just a funny line. Like, you know that Gege Akatame is like, holy fuck, I wrote fire with that one. Like, I think my pen's burnt. 100 said it was just Sukuna tripping visually after being shook. He was talking about that a little bit. I know he mentioned that when the leaks came out. He said he was going to make a video on, or he's working on a video on the good old, on like how this is pretty close to Gojo's character of him coming back as a ghost. I'm curious to see what he has to say about that. I usually agree with 100's takes, and like I've known 100 for quite a while, even though we've never collabed. He's also the only other person I know that reads One Punch Man religiously, besides Zonin. I hope he starts making One Punch Man content. Like, honestly, 100 has popped off so much on YouTube, guys. Like, he's doing great. And like I think he really deserves the support. So if you don't watch him, you should check him out. Though I'm assuming if you're watching me, you definitely watch 100. Yuji Genjutsu? Maybe. I mean, Yuji does have that known Genjutsu. Gojo living rent free in Sukuna's mind. I mean, that is a little crazier, to be honest. Do you think Nobara will come back? Maybe. I've always been against the cope, but in this case, Nobara is just kind of a definite maybe for me because of her coming back with Todo coming back. Why not? Honestly, and she's a character that's not really confirmed dead either. I think it's pretty fair. 100 is so cool, bro. He's also down to earth. Yeah, he's definitely like that. He's been like that as long as I've known him. Like it's not a front, guys. I can't confirm. I can confirm 100 is genuine, guys. He is real deal. Passes the vibe check. I don't think Gege cares about Fallout. Yeah, I do though. I love Fallout. Great series. Maybe not the Fallout you're talking about though. Gojo is probably helping Yuji as a ghost, distracting Sukuna from opening his domain. I mean, if he actually comes back to like to fucking jump scare him with a fake domain expansion, that's actually amazing. But I'm here for it if that's what happens. Nobara has the perfect technique to shake Sukuna's soul and save Megami. I think Nobara personally, like her as a person, has a better chance of bringing back Megami than her technique does. Yeah, he just says boo. Yeah, Sukuna. Like if he wanted to jump scare Sukuna, Gojo just appears behind him as a ghost and like just says boo over his shoulder. Walter Goggins is so good. I'm glad you mentioned Walter Goggins. He is a phenomenal actor, and like everything he's in. I hope he's in the live action adaptation of Jujutsu Kaisen and plays Nanami. I'm kidding. There's not going to be a live action adaptation of Jujutsu Kaisen. I made that shit up. How dark do you think the ending would be? I think Jujutsu Kaisen's ending is going to be bittersweet. I think I've talked about this a little bit. I think for actually, no, I'll just go into it entirely here. I was going to make a video on this. I've been writing a script for a video on this because I want to make something talking about how Yuji and Megami really play off each other and how Sukuna really is going to find redemption in the series, but not in the form of like this life, like in Buddhism. If like the whole point is finding a redemption is in your next life, if it's constantly moving towards a greater goal of your life, or it's like constantly moving towards an enlightenment, then for Sukuna that would mean finally moving on. And Sukuna's held on to life like nobody else, and it sounds like Sukuna's been holding on to life since he was like a little kid. And like all he knows is fighting and getting stronger to make sure he has worth in the world. And in the case of Yuji, I feel like he has to die at the end of Jujutsu Kaisen. I feel like Megami is far less likely to die. I know people talk about Megami saying like, "Oh, you'll die a fool." Some people like I think an interpretation of that from Reggie could be that Megami is dying as Megami Fushiguro and coming back as the head of the Zenin family, Megami Zenin. I've seen some people talk about that. And in the case of Yuji doesn't really feel like a natural sorcerer. You know, like he's kind of intrinsically tied to Sukuna, and he himself is a Sukuna finger. Like to kill Sukuna, it sounds like you'd probably have to kill Yuji too. And considering Jujutsu Kaisen is a Harry Potter clone, as I've talked about a couple times, it would make a lot of sense. It would make a lot of sense that for Sukuna to die, they have to destroy the Horcrux he didn't intend to make, which is Yuji. Don't do this to my boy Wuji. Quirkless, he suffered enough. No, I think the point is like if Yuji and Sukuna both die, Like, I imagine Yuji probably has like part of Sukuna's brother's fragment in him or something along these lines. And if Yuji dies and Sukuna dies, and maybe Sukuna will finally be reborn with a twin brother that he's kind of been avoiding his entire life. He rejected being a twin, and for him to try again, he try again in another life with an actual family. Because it always sounds to me like Sukuna kind of lost like the closest family member he ever would have had at birth with his brother, assuming it wasn't like a curse wound. Like, Sukuna's have been isolated his entire life. Isolation is a huge point in Jujutsu Kaisen in general. And Gojo and Sukuna are more alike than you'd really find with Yuji and Sukuna, because Gojo and Sukuna, they both suffer from like this crippling isolation. And people talk about how Gojo is the same as Sukuna, or like Sukuna is what Gojo could have been. I think it's more so they both struggled with loneliness in a different way. Gojo is selfishly motivated to make sure other people don't go through what he felt. He was severely traumatized during the events of Hidden Inventory, and Hidden Inventory is like one of the most important arcs in JJK for that purpose, which is that Gojo never got over Suguru Geto. And what's her face? The teenager. Oh my god, I cannot remember. Riko. Excuse me. God, how did I forget that name? He never got over that. And ever since then, he's been working towards, like, prior to Hidden Inventory, Gojo was, like, the most up his own ass. I'm the strongest person, and he didn't really care about other people. And he's like, oh, Suguru, you and me, we're the best. We're always going to be the best. And he had a reality check from Toji. And he changed his whole life. And that's when he found out that like isolation is not necessarily like the only way to live your life, and that's why Gojo wanted to raise up a new generation that he could be close with, and not have to be alone again. And for Sukuna never had to have that revelation, because as we see Sukuna talking about now, Sukuna says that, oh, I never once thought of finding satisfaction in another person. And I think that's what Gojo meant when he says he's trying to teach Sukuna about love, because he's trying to show Sukuna that being the strongest isn't like the most important thing in your life. Even though Gojo's been stuck living up to it his whole time. But that was my interpretation. As that Gojo had like a sneak peek of what it meant to have like close allies, and what it meant to have people around him that he cared about. And he was trying to share that with Sukuna as the strongest, or like, as someone who could relate to the isolation. Hopefully that makes sense. I'll probably go into that more in a video. It'll be more concise. But I think that at the end of the series, Sukuna kind of has to learn that being alone, being isolated, is not the only path to strength. And I think that's why he hates Yuji so much, because if Yuji has the exact same potential as him, and he realizes that, wait, you don't have to isolate yourself to fight me as an equal. And that's why he gets so pissed. Like, you guys remember in chapter like what, 258, where Sukuna, or was it 257, where Sukuna flips out and he's like, you dare fight me as an equal, boy? When he's talking to Yuji, or he's like, you're a brat. Why are you trying to fight me as an equal? He can't stand the idea of Yuji fighting him as an equal, and he brushes off the fact that Yuji has the same potential as him. Because if Yuji has the same potential as him, and he becomes an equal with Sukuna and fights him as an equal, then you know what that means for Sukuna? It means that his whole ideology of like being alone and hating other people, it was worthless. He didn't have to do it. He didn't have to isolate himself. And admitting that probably makes him pissed off. And I think that's why he hates Yuji so much. Because Yuji's representation that isolation was not the only way, that burning down everything around him was not the only option. That's my takeaway. Power of friendship bothers Sukuna to the max. Excellent. Yes, well put. A very succinct point. Boogie Woogie Sophie. I also thought Sukuna deep down regrets killing his brother. Maybe not now, but I think he will at the end of the series. I think he misses the opportunity at a family. Or like he will miss the opportunity to have someone close. And I think he'll get that again if he reincarnates. Yeah, then Sukuna's ideology was trash the entire time. Yeah, if Yuji becomes equal to him and doesn't give up everything around him, then Sukuna can't stand that, because it means he's been wrong his entire life. Yuji has potential because of Sukuna. Well, yeah, he has potential because of Sukuna, but it sounds like the potential is like, innate. Like he's still so trained for it. It's because of his fingers. It's not just because Sukuna was in him. Like that's what Kusakabe says. Kusakabe has no idea that Sukuna had like a twin that reincarnated and had a son with Kenjaku, and then Kenjaku like sealed a finger in Yuji, and then Yuji was like, and then like it was Urame who said, like it was the fridge herself. Sukuna ain't Obito, little bro. No, Sukuna's not Obito. Obito's very different to Sukuna. I don't think their ideologies are even remotely the same. But Sukuna definitely has depth to him, and Sukuna wasn't always a bad person. That much we do know. You can't really be the Fallen, or at least assuming that the Fallen is like a true title, because you can't really be the Fallen if you didn't fall from any. Like you kind of have to. Like it implies a fall from grace, and you can't really do that if you're just evil their whole life. Entire Shinjuku Showdown has been nothing but a shit show filled with plot armor, plot convenience, and ass pulls. The crazy thing only confirmed kill Sukuna has in all of this is Choso and probably Kashimo. Yeah, it does feel like a little bit like the characters just got dragged back in. Not wrong if it just means there was another route. Yeah, I mean, I guess that is true. I agree. That's not like, it doesn't mean that it's necessarily that he's wrong. The path to power can be achieved by giving up everything. Like his advice isn't wrong, but clearly Sukuna is considering having a relationship with other people as like friends. Like he's considering finding satisfaction in other people. He is considering love as like a concept, as much as he doesn't want to admit it, because in Sukuna's own internal dialogue, he keeps thinking back to Yorozu's words, and he's like spacing out in the middle of combat. It's clearly bothering him. It is clearly bothering Sukuna. Like, as much as people treat Sukuna as though Sukuna is just like a total hard ass, he's a yapper. Like, he's still a person. And like, he's isolated himself to the max. Sukuna has gone so deep into isolation that he doesn't even consider himself a human anymore. He doesn't consider himself a sorcerer. He's just him. It's crazy to me. Like, how deep it goes for this guy. Crazy to think Sukuna was born with 4 arms from the womb. I'm not sure if he was, because they could be talking about a curse womb. Because there was an original Culling Games, and people have mentioned this a few times, that it might be that when Sukuna's talking about, like, oh, I was fated to be a twin and I rejected it, it's that, like, he already had a twin brother and he just said, like, no thanks and killed him when they were, like, being reborn in a curse womb or something. And that's why he no longer views himself as part of humanity. That's why he has, like, this deformed form. And that's why when they look at Tengen, they say, oh, she's closer to a cursed spirit now than a human. It could be he's hardly even human anymore. Nah, bro, he's got his side piece, Urame. I mean, I am curious what their relationship is, because it's unlike Sukuna to have somebody around him. Like, even though Urame is a servant to Sukuna, they're also, like, hyper loyal to him, and we don't know why. Like, what is Urame getting out of the relationship? That's my question. Like, there's a lot about Sukuna we don't know. I think Sukuna got 4 arms for himself got 4 arms by himself for practicality. I mean, yeah, the practical usage of 4 arms. It is pretty OP though. It's incredibly OP. I would like some Sukuna backstory. We are way overdue. Oh, I agree. And like, when I see people say like Sukuna doesn't have like a backstory, I've been dealing with this since I started this channel. Is whenever you talk about Sukuna backstory and who this guy like used to be, and like the fact he probably had a brother and stuff like this, you would get endless comments of people saying like, "Oh, it ain't that deep. Oh, you're looking too deep." But like, oh, it turns out that he does have a brother, and he is having a character arc. Because Sukuna does have Sukuna's character arc is a pretty big point in the story at this point. It's like, it's undeniable. And Urame is getting that Heian era. Oh my god. The prayer song and Boogie Woogie combo. Boogie Woogie, guys. Truly busted. Who doesn't want a good ass cook for themselves? Very true. But really, Urame is more of a fridge. Sukuna is a chef and Urame is a fridge. Perfect combo. It is the perfect combo for like battle, but I'm just curious as to like where does the loyalty come from? Why is Urame loyal to Sukuna? That's like a huge question to me. Like Sukuna doesn't really seem like somebody that instills loyalty in people. Maybe he saved somebody. Urame is a fanboy. Don't need any other reason. Yeah, but why? Why are they a fanboy? Like, what happened? Like, you don't start off as a fanboy. Nobody else was a fanboy of Sukuna, that's all I'm saying. Like, legitimately, 0 people besides Urame. Not even Kanjaki really liked the guy. It was like, oh, you're strong. Can you, like, help me out with this Gojo guy? He's like, yeah, sure. I'll get right on that, chief. Do you think Kanjaku is truly dead? Yeah, probably. I think Kanjaku will. I do think Kanjaku filled his place in the story. He could come back, maybe, but them double tapping him, that's quite the final death. Sukuna doesn't seem too worried right now, but he is getting beat on by 2 of them. Does he have something in store? Probably. Like, when it comes to Sukuna, Jujutsu Kaisen, until you get like the full technique explanation of what he has, assume he has more. Especially when he's like the last person they're fighting. Because it's that or the merger. Yorozu. Okay, yeah, there is Yorozu. Alright, and Yorozu is like the one person that like, but even Sukuna said like, I guess Yorozu recognized the loneliness he has. But like, let's be real, guys. Yorozu is a fucking nut job. Alright, that's not a normal person. That's a schizo. She broke through to him one time, but like not because Yorozu herself was like particularly correct, but because Yorozu is just fucking crazy and like happened to say the right thing that like hits Sukuna in the feels. What's your opinion on if Yuji has to die to destroy the final finger, similar to Harry and Voldemort? Can't he reincarnate if it's still around? I think I mentioned this a little while ago. And like, yes, I do agree that he is the Horcrux Voldemort did not intend to make. But I think he does have to die to destroy the final finger. And also makes a lot of sense that like Yuji's kind of just like a pseudo reincarnation nephew spiritual thing, experiment, and they say that he is at the eye of the storm for Sukuna. So him dying makes a lot of sense in the story to me. Like Yuji doesn't really seem like he has like a natural life to begin with. You're saying you don't want a yandere girlfriend, Quirkless? No, I prefer them not to attempt a murder on me. So that's a personal preference. Didn't Rika eat it? They ate a finger, allegedly. But they say that Yuji himself does have a Sukuna finger sealed inside of him. Or he himself is like a cursed object. Either way. Either way, Yuji has like the last bit of Sukuna's curse energy in him. He and Megami, for that matter. Do you think Yorozu is stronger than Yuta? I think she has one attack that's stronger than anything Yuta has. I don't think she would beat him though. I put him way above. He has way too many options, and he's also just he's pretty top. Yuta's number 3. Like it's Sukuna, Gojo, Yuta. That's pretty hard. Quirkless, since Yuta and Yuji swapped, couldn't Yuta have learned Cleave that way? That's possible. I mean, he could just eat Yuji's finger as an option. Yuji just regrows with RCT. Quirkless, who's your top 5 strongest? That's a good question. Number 1, Sukuna. Number 2, Gojo. Number 3, Yuta. Number 4, this is where it gets hard because there's so many options. Wait, am I think like I would say 4. I'd assume Kenjaku because domain expansion Kenjaku. Yuta above Kenjaku, Kashimo, Nirozu? Yes. I mean, unfortunately for like Kenjaku has like 1 domain expansion that didn't kill somebody. And like that Yuta has way better feats than Yuki does in hand-to-hand combat at this point, I'm just gonna be honest, and durability. And just fighting and more options. And he has spatial manipulation now. And he has a busted domain, and there's no guarantee that Kenjaku's domain can even get through his domain. And if it comes down to like melee combat in the domain, I'd still give it to Yuta. Like after that, I would say Kenjaku. I can't take this Kashimo slander. Kashimo is a farmer. Kashimo is a farmer. He died. He got absolutely waffled. Kashimo is number 4. Not gonna lie. Okay, Phantom Beast Amber. Like when I'm done slandering Kashimo, Phantom Beast Amber is pretty strong. It did put a super damaged Maguna on the back foot. Kashimo is also the only guy to ever fight a Sukuna that wasn't nerfed by Yuji's punches besides Gojo. But at the end of the day, he also didn't do jack shit. Though the whole lightning bolt, instant lightning bolt, like I'm pretty sure that would kill most people. He does have Hollow Wicker Basket. Like the thing is, like I don't know if a domain expansion is good, but domain expansion doesn't guarantee that you're going to be stronger than another sorcerer, because Todo doesn't have a domain expansion, but Todo can also just like hop out of any domain expansion he wants pretty much, from the sounds of it. Like, I would just throw out Curse Energy Pebbles. Like, there are plenty of characters that don't have a domain that would beat somebody that does have a domain. Maybe plenty's a little bit of an exaggeration. Sukuna with 1,000 years of experience, a clown. Gojo after 1 hour fight, dead. Sukuna doesn't have 1,000 years of experience. Unless you count, like, all that time he spent inside of, like, the finger, though I don't really know what he'd be up to at that point. This chapter was crazy. Also, everyone remember to like the stream. Ah, yes, like the stream. That would be very beneficial. Legend has it, YouTube likes it when you like the stream. And thanks very much for the donation, Flame. What's up, man? I think Gojo could be back to combat Sukuna's domain of his own. Oh, definitely. Definitely. Like, if he's back, the whole domain expansion thing, there's no way Gojo is not counteracting that. Yuji number 4, Kenjaku number 5, Kashimo has done nothing, he isn't top 10. I mean, Kashimo fought Hikari. Kashimo fought Sukuna. Kashimo fought the least nerfed version of the forearm Sukuna. I mean, he didn't do anything against him, but he fought him. If you listen to the right circles, he's got an FTL attack. He's got those electromagnetic waves. You guys heard about the electromagnetic waves? Have you guys? I don't know if you guys were aware, but apparently Jujutsu Kaisen is light speed. Because of physics begin and end at the agenda. That's all you need to know. Whenever anybody brings up physics into Jujutsu Kaisen, especially when it comes to curse techniques, it's like, just remember, the agenda begins and ends. The physics begin and end at the agenda. That's as far as we look. Kashimo slander is super weird to me. Hey, I've been on the Kashimo train for a very long time, but I can't lie. My king, we have no loyalties here. If you die, you die. And a corpse is a corpse, because at the end of the day, you die alone. That's a Gojo quote. Man, Jujutsu Kaisen really is edgy. Glad to see you uploading more often. I hope you're doing well, Shinobi. Much appreciated. Yeah, I got that video out. That was a little rushed, I can't lie. There's some things I probably wanted to go over a little bit more in there. But I definitely want to get some... People were asking for a video, so naturally, I listened to the people. And I'll be honest, most of the time when I make a video, it's because I see like one comment that's like, "Hey guys, hey, I really like your video. Can you make one?" Like, that's all it takes, guys. That's really all it takes with me. I'm too soft-hearted. Like, I legitimately would make like if I have one guy in my comment section say, "Please make video," I sometimes do it just for them. Just how I am. Apocalypsagon. Super chats. What are the chances of instead of a domain expansion, Yuji gets a maximum technique instead? Kanjaka seemed to talk about it with him. Unless you just come back, there's an option. Hold on, let me reread this super chat. My mind blanked. What are the chances of instead of a domain expansion, Yuji gets a maximum technique instead? Kanjaka seemed to talk about it with him. Maybe he will get a maximum technique. We haven't seen a maximum from Shrine. That's actually a pretty good point. I wouldn't mind seeing a maximum technique from Shrine. I want to know what a maximum cleave or dismantle would look like. Or a maximum furnace. You just turn up the heater all the way. You have to preheat the oven. Extra hot. You're risking a gas leak. They talk about the whole... Okay, so Shrine works differently for Yuji because it is in a different era. But what if... what if the furnace that Yuji opens is like just an actual fucking oven? Like, what if it is dead ass, just like a preheated oven? He just opens up a conventional oven. I'm here for it. Or it's an air fryer. Open broiler, dude. Open microwave. Isn't the furnace the max technique? It doesn't sound like the furnace is the max technique. It sounds like the furnace is just a base part of Shrine. Open easy bake oven. Yeah. Yeah, I had an easy bake oven when I was a kid. That food tasted like ass, dude. Infinite Void, without a doubt, is the strongest domain expansion. I don't think it is. There are sure hits that are way better. Like, a Perfect Sphere just kills you. I think Infinite Void has some better uses. But like overall, it can like there are things that it can't do that you can do with things like Sukuna's Malevolent Shrine. Like if you have an open barrier with Malevolent Shrine, you can break down other people's barriers. I think Infinite Void's really good. I think it's definitely like a top 3. But I think it is edged out in some areas. It's really a utility thing at that point though, because like at the end of the day, Unlimited Void is just like a workaround for like an indirect way of killing you, which is really good. Like, don't get me wrong, Unlimited Void is an incredibly good way of removing somebody from a fight without killing them or working around like durability. But people like Yorozu instantly kill you. People like Mahito allegedly instantly kill you. Yeah, sure hit only Yorozu's and Mahito's domain is the best. Overall, Sukuna's domain is undoubtedly the strongest. Oh yeah, I mean Furnace opens better than anything Unlimited Void showed, to be honest. If you can actually use it. I mean Furnace opens just cracked. It's just a fucking pressure cooker. Infinite Void should hit the opponent with something infinite other than info. Unlimited Void is in the top 3. I honestly, you could definitely make an argument that Unlimited Void is top 1. It just depends. Like, it is top 1 in some situations because it depends on what you're going up against. Because Open Furnace in Jujutsu Kaisen is godly because it just absolutely obliterates things. But if you're fighting somebody that has, like, incredible durability to survive that, Unlimited Void is better. Gojo open domain should be him using infinite purples. Just purple lights going on. It's a fucking disco in there. Unlimited Void is a sure kill too because it was one of Gojo's win cons. Well, in the 0.1 seconds, it's not a sure kill. I'll tell you why. Well, it is over time, like with enough time in the domain. But I'll give you the reason why I put Yorozu over it is because when you see Sukuna get caught for like 0.1 seconds, or like at the very end where Mahoraga comes out and breaks it, if that was Yorozu's domain, he would just die. There would be no in between. There'd be no chance to save him because it's a one shot, like an actual one shot, and that's the difference. Infinite Void is good in some cases, but I don't think it's number one. Because when you have Malevolent Shrine can break down your barrier if it's an open barrier. Infinite Void has never been shown. Infinite Void is a sure hit. It doesn't have the utility of breaking down people's barriers. If you can extend your domain range, you can break down someone else's barriers. You can also have, and it also has the added effect that Shrine has this open furnace that can just pressure cook the entire domain. There's a lot more uses to it. And like Infinite Void is really good at bypassing durability by uploading into your brain. But like, who has Infinite Void ever actually killed? That's the real question. Purple was supposed to be godly too. Has Furnace more powerful, wider range, more dramatic impact effect. It also just like puts you, it pretty much blows up every single inch of his domain. It's pretty disgusting. I mean, just look at the firepower. Look at the impact. Has a much wider radius. And purple also, even an amped, a 200% purple took off Sukuna's, like, what, his hands? Like, what do we think Furnace is doing to him? Assuming it's not his curse energy. 0.01 seconds took away his domain. I mean, he would just be dead if it was Yorozu, though. Yeah, then there's Chimera Shadow Garden. Chimera Shadow Garden could be the absolute top one. I agree with that. That's where you're going with this. Purple's supposed to instantly delete you. It doesn't do that, so it's kind of a moot point. How do you survive? By, well, the way I saw some people talk about it is that it's basically just using, it's not literally, it's not a tachyon. And first of all, curse techniques aren't always one-to-one with physics in the first place, but people treating purple as a durability negation is just not true. It's just not. And like, we see that. Like, it only took off his arms because he put his reinforce in that. And like, I'm saying unlimited void is absolutely the best in some situations. Like, if you're fighting Superman, I'd rather have unlimited void than Malevolent Shrine. But if I'm fighting another sorcerer and they don't have like an open barrier, Malevolent Shrine lets you break down their barrier and just win. Purple just seems to be amped curse energy, not some antimatter wipe. It seems like somebody put it in an interesting way in that it is like the combined, like it's repelling, it is repelling and pulling you over and over and over again for like a lot of kinetic damage. And people were like, oh, well, it's an imaginary mass, so that can't be true. But I don't really know why we're treating it like it's real world why it is guaranteed real world physics when there are a ton of things in Jujutsu Kaisen that just cannot exist in real life. Sukuna lost only both of his arms, mostly due to the 4 kilometer distance, and Sukuna specifically mentions it. When he mentions it, he mentions that it was really close to him because it was 4 kilometers away, not that it was far. He was saying that like it wasn't that, like what he was saying was it wasn't that far away. It wasn't him saying, "Oh, it was so far away. I can't believe it. Like I'm glad it was so far away. It did less damage." I don't know why people keep bringing this up, and I'll even pull it up for you if you want. Like we have the panel. And I'll put it here once and for all. This is what, 234, I think he said it in. Let me get this for a second. Let's pull it up. I've been wanting to talk about this for a while anyways. I know we're saying we're gonna glaze Gojo, and here we are. There. So we look at the bottom here. He says, oh, he says the purple fire at the beginning of the fight had more than 120% output. He likely used some sort of binding vow. He looked to be less than 4 kilometers away, yet even taking it head on, all I lost was both of my enhanced arms. So what he's saying is he wasn't that far away. It's not him saying that he was crazy far. It's the opposite of what you're trying to imply. Why do you see it as far? Because that's what he's saying. Why do you see it as far? That's not what I see it as at all. I said it's because he's saying it's close. He's saying it's not that far away. Just read what he's saying. He looked to be less than 4 kilometers away, yet even taking it head on, all I lost was both of my enhanced arms. May prove fatal. Will likely prove fatal. I don't know how you get, oh, he was saying it was super far away, so that negated the damage, when it's the opposite of what he's saying. I think you're reading that wrong, but if that's your interpretation, how am I reading that wrong? How is that not the takeaway? He's saying all I lost was both of my enhanced arms, not that I'm so glad I only lost my enhanced arms. He said he looked to be less than 4 kilometers away, yet even taking it all head on, all I lost was both of my enhanced arms. I don't know how you could read that as anything but him saying he's closer. He's not saying, oh, he was super far away, and it stopped the damage. He was saying, oh, he's not that far away. And I still lost both of my enhanced arms. Why would purple even lose its power as it travels? That's an excellent point, but that's a concept for another time. It's a question for another day. Do you think he used a main amp to stop it? No, because he said both of my enhanced arms, so he's just using reinforcement. Like, if you think he's saying it's because he's farther away, I'm curious why. Because that's just not how he talks about it. Yet people keep bringing this up. Man, I swear, JJK community doesn't know how to read. It is literally the ghost of Gojo, not Gojo alive. Okay, let's not be ridiculous. Let's not be ridiculous, okay? When they say that is the ghost of Gojo, when they say it's the ghost of Gojo, people say it's the ghost of somebody they used to know all the time. It's a description. Like, that's not saying it's literally a ghost. Like, if I say, like, okay, have you ever had an old lady lose her shit in front of you and she's like, oh my stars, I thought I saw a ghost, and then it's someone else? Well, in this case, I mean, that's not the best example. Oh my stars, man. Yeah, that's my old lady rendition. I hope you guys like that. Abyssal Leviathan super chats. Yuta fights Sukuna. Yuta fighting Sukuna had the same cursed energy as Yuta. No, Sukuna fighting Yuta had the same cursed energy as Yuta. Now, after his domain hit by 8 black flashes, etc., he still has the same cursed energy as Yuta. It ain't adding up. Well, Sukuna has far better. What is it? What's the word for it? He has far better efficiency with his cursed energy than Yuta does. Even if we said he was specifically talking about how far away it was, he still tanked the purple 120% plus. He also underestimated honest to God, he overestimated how strong Gojo's purple was by saying it was 120% when it was actually 200% because he thought Gojo was stronger. And you see that again when he says it'll likely prove fatal, and it doesn't. Because Gojo's purple's weaker than he thought it was. Sukuna did get 2 black flashes off. That's a good point. That could bring back his output. Or maybe not his overall curse energy, though. I don't think black flashes ever showcased as him, Gojo can teleport with blue, but purple can't teleport to someone. Well, with blue, he has to, like, warp the space. He has to compress the space or pull something, and, like, he's already using blue inside of the hollow purple. I believe it's because of the implied idea of even mentioning the distance. Why be afraid of it if all he lost was his arms and doesn't see it as a threat? Well, because he tells you, because he's not exactly at 100%. I'll bring back up the page. He was saying before that, like, oh man, that first purple was really strong. It was over 100%. And he's like, even when he wasn't that far away, all I lost was both of my enhanced arms. However, now I'm not exactly in tip-top shape, so it could prove fatal. That's why he's afraid of it now, because he's not in the same position he was before. It's kind of funny that purple is actually 2 out of 6 in kills. A 33% kill rate for final move is a bit funny. To be fair, he uses purple unlike the strongest guys in the series. He used purple twice against Sukuna, and Sukuna was not destined to die at that point. The Black Flash did amp up his understanding of cursed energy. I don't think it replenishes it as a whole. You know, Black Flashes are like this mystery thing sometimes. They do add like whole reverse curse technique circuits to your brain, apparently, in Gojo's case. So maybe Black Flash could up your cursed energy and like bring it back. You know, cursed energy is kind of supernatural, so you never know. Gojo should have had an open domain after he saw Sukuna's. Gege said he can do anything he sees. Well, what Gege said, what the thing you're talking about with Gege is they said like an end of chapter thing is that like Gojo accomplishes anything he puts his mind to. It's not him like literally having instant copy. It's that just like he tends to be gifted at the things he does, and it's more of a character description than like an actual power scaling statement. I only know why people use that one all the time. I think that's in like the first 10 chapters too. Do you think Gojo sacrificed one of his eyes? At this point, binding vows are so busted that it's a definite maybe. JJK's biggest mysteries: binding vows and black flashes. I think black flashes are way less problematic than binding vows are. Binding vows just have, like, ironically, the thing that is all about having a rule doesn't have enough rules around it. Like, you're imposing a rule with no rules. That's the goofy part. Yeah, the only person we've seen the actual instant copy is Sukuna. Very true. Yuta black flashing Sukuna is OP, so Gege had to remove him. I think Yuji's black flashes are far more worthwhile than Yuta's. Mainly because he's interrupting the actual hold over the body. If Gojo made a binding vow, that's so lame. I don't think that's lame. I mean, that's how we've had characters survive before. Gojo clearly wins the 1v1 versus Sukuna. I mean, no, but you're allowed to believe that. What does Gojo do? What does Gojo do against a 4-armed Sukuna that is chanting 24/7? And he runs out of domain expansions. Because you have to remember that Sukuna, while using domain amplification, cannot fight back against Sukuna. I mean, he can't fight back against Gojo while adapting. And he had to take special care to maintain the adaptation the entire time. So while getting beat on, he was still 15 seconds from bringing down the last domain anyways. And then Gojo's RCT output drops, and then what does he do? I see a lot of people bring up the furnace all the time. It's like, oh, the furnace was cool during the Gojo fight, but that really wasn't the argument people were making. Like, the argument for Sukuna winning against Gojo in the domains was never, like, the big point was never the fire arrow. It's just funny people keep bringing it up. Gojo's win conditions: beat Sukuna until he can't fight. I mean, he could get. I mean, he does have win conditions with Unlimited Void. Do you believe Sukuna has a heavenly restriction? Because I definitely do now. Maybe. Maybe he does. Sukuna wins with 2-arm version, no Maho, prove me wrong. I mean, there's still an argument that he does. But it's a lot like it's a lot easier to just argue for forearms, and like I don't really feel like getting into the nitty gritty of like Maguna. If people want to say he beat like Gojo beats Maguna with no Maho, that's fine. Gojo's win conditions beats Sukuna until he can't fight. Sukuna meanwhile can just wait for Gojo to fry his brain by himself. He genuinely only has to defend himself. Yeah, it's true. And like if you think forearm Sukuna can't defend himself while 24/7 domain amping, when the weakest body of Sukuna could not even fight back half the time, it was still 15 seconds or like, you know, what was it? 15 seconds in the last domain away from bringing it down and killing Gojo. That's just ridiculous to me. Did Gojo even need to clash Sukuna? Yeah, he does, because otherwise he's just going to get hit by Malevolent Shrine until he runs out of RCT and dies. Because RCT output drops, as we saw. Like, if you keep taking damage, eventually Gojo will no longer be able to RCT the Shrine hits. Like, it's inevitable. Gojo wins to... Hold on, let's see. No, Gojo loses to Sukuna with only Maguna, no version, no Maho. Basically only needs domain expansion, domain application, and CT and RCT. I mean, I agree, but if Gojo... Like, I know it's a lot... It's a little more obnoxious to argue for Maguna. It's a lot easier to just talk about forearms. That's what I meant. Gojo could outlast Sukuna, to be honest. What... Yeah, with what? He did nothing to him without his CT. Well, what's he doing to outlast what's Gojo doing to outlast Sukuna if he doesn't get his domain expansion? If he's stuck in MS the entire time? Against four-armed Sukuna. He could teleport. Well, I mean, I guess if we're talking about like a battlefield removal, maybe. He can teleport though and fly. I mean, Sukuna can just close his domain at that point. And even if he's flying, he's still hit by MS. Didn't Sukuna survive just because he used a binding vow? Against what? I mean, if we're talking about the end of the fight, this is like one of the dumbest things. Apparently we're going all the way into Gojo versus Sukuna here. If we're talking about the fight at the end, Sukuna making a binding vow to fire off the World Slash is like the dumbest thing I've ever seen, because he could have just turned to four arms and done a better version of it anyways. Unfortunately, Gojo is the strongest when Sukuna ain't there. Unfortunately true. Yeah, it's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So that, like, I'm pretty confident the whole like, people talk about writing issues around Sukuna's World Slash all the time, and I agree. The whole, oh, I'm gonna shoot my dismantle and just World Slash by binding vowing it. It doesn't make a lot of sense. When he has a four-armed form he can turn into instantaneously. And I'm pretty sure it was just a band-aid that Gege Akutami came up with like 10 chapters later when they realized, wait a second, this World Slash is OP. Maybe Todo could have boogie-woogied him. Do you think Sukuna is really trying, as Urame mentioned? I mean, I assume so. He used the furnace. Like, I'd be pretty... Like, you gotta be really glazing at this point to think Sukuna's not trying. There's, like, a couple things of, like, oh, a desperate measure to do this. A desperate measure to do that. Like, maybe he has more, but I'm not gonna sit here and say that, like, he's not trying, because that's ridiculous. That sounds like something you'd hear on Twitter. Sukuna goes four arms and Gojo teleports back to the locker room. Binding vows are literally from Harry Potter. They're also from Nen. I think that's where he got it from, because Curse Energy is really based on Hunter x Hunter. in a lot of cases for the combat system. And Hunter x Hunter has the exact same problem with its system that Jujutsu Kaisen does. So that makes a lot of sense, to be honest. Todo got the biggest buff. Yeah, he did. He uses the hand pointing thing in the next chapter with Cosmo, though, doesn't he? Yeah, he does, because he already made the binding vow. The thing is, he permanently nerfed his World Slash by not turning into forearms when he didn't even have to aim it before. All he had to do was make the hand sign, and that shit would just like spawn into reality. It was OP. It's totally OP, and then he just nerfed himself. What is it called in Hunter x Hunter? I think it's called Restriction. Let me look it up real quick. There's a word for it. It's been a while since I read Hunter x Hunter, but I always had the same problem with Nen, which is that whenever you have a system that allows people to like give and take with their own power set, you're like, okay, that's really cool, but also the possibility for abuse of a system like that is so high. Yeah, Nen contracts. There you go. Yeah, having characters just sacrifice everything to come back. Always OP. It's always OP to like have a give and take power set. Regardless, Sukuna needed vows, and Gojo could have ended Sukuna after his domain hit, but wanted to preserve Megami's body. Let's not forget. I don't know where'd you ever hear him say that a single time. They tell you multiple times that Gojo is fully willing to kill Sukuna, and he is going all out. It's ridiculous to think that he wasn't. The only thing he could have possibly done differently is like go for the head. But like some people, I've seen this argument that like he could stuff his hand through Sukuna's head. First of all, a skull is a lot thicker than like stabbing somebody in like the fleshy part of their chest. Well, I guess I have to look at the page again. It's just ridiculous. Like, by that assumption, like Gojo's Black Flash Blue Punch should go like right through Sukuna, because it has to be stronger than like his open palm stab. Yeah, you want his lungs, his heart, his kidney, his soul. Gojo wanted everything from that man. I mean, you could say that he wasn't going to go for the head, but like either way, Gojo was rushing to go and like beat the shit out of him. Yeah, it's kind of, you see, if we want to give Gojo the benefit of the doubt in that fight, I think that's fine. Had we not had like an entire thing about, oh, I'm not holding back, oh, I gave it my all, oh, I had fun. But like that kind of removes the whole, oh, Gojo wasn't trying to kill him. It's ridiculous. He could have easily just purpled Sukuna like Sukuna World Slash Gojo. So Gojo's purple takes time to charge, and also he had like 15 seconds. And like it was Maharaga came out in less than 15 seconds. And Gojo couldn't even get red reversal out in time to kill Maharaga. What makes you think he could get a purple out? It's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous take. Like the guy who can't even red reversal Maharaga before it shatters his domain can pull out a purple to kill Sukuna in the span of like 15 seconds. Says who? Aren't Gojo's Black Flashes technically also blue amped? Because when he was talking about Black Flashes, he says he just uses his technique. Yeah, they should be. They definitely should be. And also explains why Sukuna hard stopped when he got Black Flash. Do you have an opinion on the text font for domain expansion in 260 being vastly different in terms of font than Sukuna's usual domain, even in the Japanese RAWs? Yeah, I think it's Gojo's. I think it's somebody else, and I think he said it before Sukuna even said domain expansion. Bro, just stop. You're literally glazing Sukuna and downplaying Gojo right now. What have I said that is wrong about Sukuna? What have I said that is wrong about Gojo? If you're gonna accuse me of not being realistic about the characters, then I'd like some examples. The final purple was so stupid that Maharaga didn't use his world slash to stop it. I mean, it seems like Maharaga had like its own orders. And it also seems like the way that Maharaga uses the wheel turn is because like the way Maharaga uses the whole world slash. This is just my interpretation of it when like the wheel spins, but it doesn't seem like Maharaga can just shoot out a world slash like willy-nilly. It seems like it has to have like a wheel click and then he gets to like fire off one because we never saw him spam it. And on the note of Maharaga, if Maharaga comes back, or like a totality Maharaga comes back, I do wonder if it will have like its own infinity barrier. Because if it gets the techniques over time, it should get Gojo's infinity, right? Gojo outplayed them on the last purple. Oh, for sure he did. Like when we talk about what Gojo did really well in the fight, it's like undeniably in chapter 235, that was the only time in the fight that Sukuna was like, oh shit, this is really bad. He was put in a rough position there for sure. And like if you want to talk about like points in time for Sukuna's being pushed, that's definitely one of them. I think it is ridiculous downplay. I've seen some people say that like, oh, Gojo didn't make him that nervous. But I'm like, I mean, it seemed like that like things weren't going to plan. That's all I can say. And also, thank you, Carol Delansky, for joining the Quirkless Sorcerers. It's much appreciated. See, the Unlimited Void is pretty bad for Sukuna, definitely. Gege really made Sukuna overrated and downplayed Gojo. I mean, I think he just made Sukuna stronger. Whether or not that's great, I mean, like whether or not you like that is really up to you. I do think they made Sukuna like I'm not a big fan of the whole four-armed fight not going off with Sukuna. It's kind of ridiculous to me. What are your top five favorite Jujutsu Kaisen characters? I don't know if I have a top five. I have characters. Well, number one's Yuji. I like Yuji, Megumi, Gojo, Sukuna, and Nanami. Probably my favorites. I think they're like the most well written, usually. Unlimited Purple or Furnace? Furnace. Definitely Furnace. Furnace has way bigger impact. Absolutely cooks you. I am a little confused the way they word it about like, okay, he can use the furnace outside of the domain. Okay, so if it is Gojo who returns, what are you gonna say? I'm gonna say if he fights, I find it crazy how Yuji who didn't. Oh, let me read both your chats here so I get the full picture in case they're linked. I find it crazy Yuji who didn't do more than Gojo is somehow winning and getting credit. Somehow winning and getting credit. Who didn't do more than Gojo somehow winning and getting credit because he's clutching for them. That's why. Because he put in the most work besides Gojo. I mean, it's not a bad follow up. But and then to respond to your other comment of, okay, so if it is Gojo who returns, what are you gonna say? Oh, I'm gonna say Gojo's back. What do you want me to say? If Gojo comes back, he comes back. And then if Gojo becomes stronger in feats than Sukuna, then I'll have him there. Unpopular opinion. Gege made a mistake killing off Higuruma. You like debating with me? I don't really call it debate. It's more like a conversation usually. I mean, there are a lot of people that will occasionally come in, and sometimes I do just argue on Twitter for fun. But there are like it's usually good to at least argument is good to at least work through a problem. But some people just say shit and then don't back it up at all. But if you have a stance on something, you should argue for it, I think. And if you're wrong, well, first of all, you have to admit you're wrong. When you're wrong, you're wrong. Just how it goes. Bring our boy back. Bro, what are you talking about? I'm saying that it's good to argue for a point. It's good to argue for a point if you have something to talk about. Sorry, that's not even fucking English. My brain is cooked. We're 2 hours into the stream. It's good to argue a point that you have a stance on, especially in Power Scam, especially if you're making YouTube content for it occasionally, which I have. Because if you're wrong, you're not really going to find out unless you actually argue with somebody who knows what they're talking about. Oh, not me. It says those eyes can't be mistaken. It's for sure Gojo. Quirkless, have you seen Godzilla -1? I have. Great movie. Where is Nobara, man? Nobara, she's on her way. She's dead. No, she's on her way, guys. That movie is so good. Yeah, Godzilla -1 is great. If you haven't seen it, guys, I would highly suggest. What if Sukuna didn't get sealed by sorcerers, but him just testing out what happens if you break a binding vow plus Kenjaku? I would imagine that he just, well, it seems like they had his bodies, and he was a special case. He had his cursed object split up into 20 fingers, which is pretty strange. And Tengen was in possession of his corpse, which is very strange. I'm sure there's going to be a big reveal about that. But I don't think he was trying to test anything out. I think he just wanted to live forever, and at the time, Kenjaku was the only way of doing that, because Kenjaku had more knowledge than him. And then Martin super chats, how was Furnace used on Jogo without the domain expansion? Because Furnace can be used without the domain expansion. It just has to be on one target. He can't use it on multiple. I'll even pull up the panel if I can. They say the fire arrow is slow outside of the domain, but it has ridiculous. They say, despite their absurd firepower, the flames within Furnace lack of both speed and range. To amend this, Sukuna undertook another binding vow that outside of his domain, he cannot use Furnace on multiple targets. So he could use it against Jogo, just no one else. Or I should say no one else at the same time, and Maharaga. Though he kind of just blew up the whole thing. And it's not as powerful, right? No, it's just as powerful. It just doesn't have as much range. It always has absurd firepower. What counts as single target? Can't he just one-shot people back-to-back with Furnace? Yeah, honestly, yeah, he should be able to, but it's unexplained, okay? I don't write Jujutsu Kaisen. I can't explain that one for you. There are some theories I might be able to have on it, that it takes some time to form. He has to heat up the furnace every single time. He has to use his slashes on the area around him. It sounds like he kind of heats it up with cleave and dismantle. He has to cleave and then dismantle a target. Maybe it is the actual target itself, and then he opens it up. What is Yuji grabbing at the end of the chapter? Sukuna's flesh. Yeah, he's grabbing Sukuna's flesh. Let me double back and take a look real quick at the leak pages, but I'm pretty sure he got a meaty grip on that one. Yeah, he just clawed his chest. That's all I see. Probably trying to rip out his heart or like go for the wound he was already at. Gojo is just a ghost probably, since Gege can be very sadistic. A good luck landing the arrow when Boogie Woogie involved. True. Sternum in hand. Yeah, he literally grabs your sternum. God, that would fucking hurt. Plot twist, all these fights are part of brain damage from Void, and the original Gojo is just standing there waiting for Sukuna to come back to reality. That would be pretty funny. The meaty grip is vile. Thanks. I didn't mean it like that, guys. You guys always go to the worst spots with everything I say. Everything out of context. He was literally grabbing his flesh. Sukuna might pull a Muzan on Yuji just like in Demon Slayer. Oh, Demon Slayer spoilers, man. I'm kidding. I think we're going to answer a couple more questions here, and I'm going to wrap up. If first of all, here, I'll answer this one. If Novara's alive, do you think she'll have the 20th finger? Maybe. Grabbing his flesh out of context ain't no better. What you mean? I mean, that's literally what he was doing. He was grabbing his sternum. I don't know what you people want from me. It's an impossible game. Can someone tell me how did Gege think Todo CT wouldn't help you to literally beat Sukuna? Todo CT. Todo CT is busted, okay? You're preaching to the choir on this one. Todo should have been there the whole time. Todo could have just clapped this guy into a executioner sword. He could have clapped him to his own world slash. He could have clapped him to so many different things. He could have put him... He could have had Gojo... If he can teleport people, if he can clap to the point that you can just be moved around indefinitely, like, how do you even move at that point with, like, this stupid-ass cowbell? Especially with the range he has, just repeatedly clap and move Sukuna into an unlimited void. It's ridiculous. It is an unbelievably busted ability. I have the correct context, dog. It's the linguistic terrorism of the phrase. I am known for linguistic terrorism. It's true. Todo is a plot device. I kind of agree a little bit. But they do tell us that they had, like, they didn't know that Sukuna could start the merger at the time, or he couldn't start the merger at the time. So if he was off helping Yuta fight Kenjaku, that makes a lot of sense, I think. Do you think Gojo is going to be weaker now or nah? I think he might be weaker. I think it's a definite maybe. But on that note, I'm going to head off for now, guys. Thanks for coming. We went further into Gojo versus Sukuna than I ever like going into. But that's about all. I'll make a video on this chapter. I'll definitely be making a video on the whole Buddhism aspects of the series at some point. It's something I want to make for a while. Why is no one talking about Shoko? That's the last question I'll answer. Because Shoko's just a medic.